What is up, my friends? Myself and Mr. David Lynch are back to go through the main topics that we think you need to know surrounding Liverpool Football Club, obviously with an eye to the contract situation and this winter's transfer window. So, David, always a pleasure to catch up with you, my man. We've done it, bro. We've got through the international break. We've survived it.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I've been enjoying the break. It's a bit less intense for me when the international break's on, so I've been putting my feet up. But yeah, to be fair, in terms of, I wouldn't like it to last much longer. And in terms of having things to write and talk about, it's much better when there's matches on. So, and I'm looking forward to that Chelsea game as well. And the fact that this run of fixtures coming up is going to be a really good test for the team. So yeah, I am actually looking forward to it.
I was looking through them last night, and it is a tasty couple of months coming up. And obviously, it starts this weekend with Chelsea coming. I just want to get your thoughts really, really quickly on the Thomas Tuchel England scenario. And as an outsider here, and I very much am, I can understand it completely. I wanted to get your thoughts on it, though.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I can understand why he would have clearly had the best CV of any candidate who would have applied, particularly amongst English managers as well, because, you know, in terms of knockout football, he's proved many times that he's a real threat in that. And getting someone with that caliber in to manage what is a world-class group of players absolutely makes sense. I do think there's, you know, I wouldn't have phrased it in the way it has been phrased by certain aspects of the media in terms of what was it, a day of shame or something like that. But I do think ideally England would have an English manager, just purely on the basis of I feel that that's the spirit of international football. But clearly, I think it's time really for the FA to kind of reflect on why there's not an English candidate who gets anywhere near Thomas Tuchel in terms of quality and coaching experience. And you know, they really do need to look to resolve that. So I think it's a really good appointment for England, and a smart one. But I also think, you know, they really need to have a think about why they haven't got any coaches that are of his level and what they can do to sort of improve those pathways.
That's true. Now, obviously, I'm looking at this as an Irishman, sitting here looking at my Icelandic dentist who was sacked by Jamaica as our international manager. So, real first world problems there, David, for the English national team. I wanted to talk about Trent for a second because it might well be a bit of Madrid propaganda, but there have been a few reports saying that Liverpool are resigned to losing Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, in these situations, David, there's always a battle for hearts and minds in the media out there. And I know from my time covering Liverpool that the Spanish media are very club centric. They really do support certain clubs and do their bidding for them. I just wanted to reassure people that maybe as far as you're concerned, this is by no means a done deal. Maybe in either way, but certainly it's still all to play for with Trent, and there's been no decision communicated to the club.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right to mention that. I think sort of Madrid press, although it's pretty similar around Barcelona as well, they will try and use their influence, and stories will get dropped in that are trying to turn players' heads or change fan perception, even, you know, going as far as to maybe say, you know, if a Liverpool supporter reads that and then thinks, oh, I'm going to, you know, throw abuse at Trent Alexander-Arnold on social media, and even that, you know, Madrid kind of manipulating that and changing how Trent is perceived locally, and then, you know, can that affect things and maybe turn him more towards moving towards Real Madrid? But my understanding is nothing done or no resignation on Liverpool's part. That is, you know, he's not going to sign on with them at the moment. I believe he's kind of still trying to work through with Liverpool and get that contract sorted. He still wants to stay. But it's just a case of getting that done and making sure he gets what he wants and that Liverpool get what they want. You know, I still lean towards optimism on that, because I just think it would look so poor for Liverpool to lose him. They will throw absolutely everything they can at it to sort it out. So, and I also think Trent has said many times he wants to captain Liverpool. So I think that the elements are there for an agreement to be reached. Whether, you know, it has gone on too long, it's too late. It's frustrating from that aspect, but I still think Liverpool will get this one over the line, because I just think they have to, really, and they have to throw everything they can at him.
I've been looking at this, and a lot of people are talking about the potential ways that Trent may have to be offered to get this agreement. There was a figure of 280 thrown around that somebody said was rejected by Trent. Now, I can't say whether that's true or not. I don't know, maybe if you could. But on top of that, I think you have to look at what he's worth to Liverpool versus maybe what he's worth to Madrid. I have no hesitation in saying that Madrid are only interested in Trent as strongly as they are because of his contractual situation. If he had 2 or 3 years to go, I don't think Real Madrid are looking at Trent this summer, because they know that they'd have to pay in excess of 100 million. And on top of that, I think that we can probably pay Trent, David, a higher wage than Real Madrid would be willing to or able to pay him with the superstars and the wage bill that they currently already have. So anything on that 280k offer, or is that just somebody stirring the pot?
I haven't heard anything about any offers being rejected or anything like that. I think Trent was very much speaking truthfully when he said he doesn't want this played out in public. And so any kind of details on how it's playing out and what's been put on the table and what's been rejected, Liverpool won't be allowing that to leak. And I don't think anyone from Trent's side will either. They really do want to keep this under wraps, which is why, again, it just gives me cause for optimism is the basis that, any of these updates, I don't think there's a lot of truth in them, to be honest. And I think it's something that, as we saw with Canate, as we saw with Quansah, it will just come out of the blue. It will just happen, unexpectedly, and hopefully there's an agreement there. In terms of what they'll need to offer him to keep him, I think you're probably touching close to that 300 mark. I think he would still be short of, say, a Salah because, goals pay the bills, don't they? And as influential and important as Trent is, he is still a defender. He's a right back, and they don't tend to be getting those sorts of £350,000 a week. I don't think he's going to be in that stratosphere. That's my expectation. But I think, if he's in the 300 region, I wouldn't be massively surprised because they do need to recognise how important he is and the fact that, eventually he's going to probably captain this club if he does stay. And that he's just, he's hugely influential in everything Liverpool do on both sides of the ball, really.
So Team Talk have written something a little bit different. They say that they believe that Liverpool will reach an agreement with Virgil, will reach an agreement with Trent Alexander-Arnold, but the one that they believe is going to leave in the summer on a free is Mohamed Salah. So again, David, I'd like to get your thoughts on the Van Dijk situation, which I believe, from speaking to you previously, everybody seems quite comfortable and confident that Virgil certainly wants to stay and that there's really an appetite to get that done. The Mohamed Salah stuff, I think most outsiders observing this will probably feel that it is the most tricky of the three deals to get done. It is obviously going to be one where Mohamed Salah is not going to be short of offers either. So any updates on that side of things, or maybe what you think we could expect with Mohamed Salah?
Yeah, so just on Van Dijk, I just want to say, again, I really do have confidence on that one. I just think he is so keen to stay, and Liverpool can see the value in keeping him. Wage-wise, he's not in Mohamed Salah's stratosphere, so it's a lot easier to get that done. And quite clearly, he's got a few more years at world-class level in him, given where, being a centre-half. I've no question over that. So I think that's one. I think, in an ideal world, Liverpool throw everything at getting Trent signed. Van Dijk is a little easier to do. And then if they do that, I think it just gives them a bit of breathing room with Mohamed Salah and an opportunity to just try and find that compromise, because it is a tricky one to untangle in terms of what you do wage-wise, whether he stays on what he is. If that's going to be the case, you can probably only offer him 2 years, and you've got to be careful about that. Does the player want longer? What's his offers he's getting from elsewhere? Does he want to stay in the Premier League versus go to Saudi now? There's a lot of sort of moving parts in that one that make it a little trickier. But, I wouldn't go as far as to be ruling that one out at all. I think, if there is a willingness to compromise on the player's side about the contract length, which, again, he's shown perhaps in some of his sort of public utterances recently, if that willingness to compromise is there, then again, there's every chance that they get that one done. But I just lean towards the idea it would probably be the last of the three to get done if it does, just because I think the other three are a little bit more, the other two, are a little bit more straightforward in terms of what Liverpool have to do.
I have to admit, David, I had a bit of a wry smile watching the Netherlands during the week, because Virgil van Dijk's often come in for a lot of heavy criticism over in his home country in the media, by the Dutch media in particular. And I have to admit, I had a bit of a wry smile seeing them realise without Virgil van Dijk, that Dutch defence is a lot different. And Rafael van der Vaart came out and said something similar. And sometimes, David, it is just a case of not realising quite how good somebody is until they're maybe not there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's nice that the Dutch media maybe appreciate that about him now, and just how important and just how good he is. He's obviously similar for Liverpool. And again, if Liverpool were to lose him this summer, and this is why I don't think this will happen. I think, again, they will get this one done. If Liverpool were to lose him this summer, they would be getting in someone who is absolutely nowhere near his level. And the reason for that is that nobody anywhere near his level exists at the moment. He is the best centre-half in the world, quite comfortably so. Liverpool do not need to be giving themselves that headache with a player who is desperate to stay. Absolutely get that signed contract and get it in front of him and get it sorted. So I'm really optimistic that they will do that. And we won't have to find out what a Liverpool defence without Virgil van Dijk looks like for a long time yet.
And just to box off the whole contract renewals thing, any information on Ibrahima Kanade? Obviously, lots of positive noises around that. Fabrizio Romano said it looks like most details have been agreed, a few bits still to get over the line. But again, optimism on this one.
Yeah, so expectation is that will get done. I tally with that reporting really in terms of it's just final details, and there is an expectation that one will be signed, which I think is a big boost. Really, he's a really important player. Really proved it this season how vital he can be, and he's looking back to his best. And if you can get him on the pitch consistently, which the hope is this new look medical team that Liverpool have got are going to be able to do that. If you can get him on the pitch consistently, he's right up there as one of the Premier League's top centre halves. And I expect that one to be done, which I think is absolutely fantastic news.
Just actually to follow on what you said about the medical team, not really medical related, but we did see perhaps another addition to Arne Slot's backroom team over this international break. A video analyst, David, going to be coming in to join him, somebody who he'd worked with previously at Feyenoord.
Yeah, just another boost to the staff, really. And again, I think it's always helpful in these elements if you have worked with someone before, in terms of he will know exactly what Arne Slot will want from matches, or what exactly he'll want in terms of how you scout the opposition and that sort of analysis. And just bolsters Liverpool's kind of backroom team and makes it a little bit stronger. So it's one of those. I think it is always helpful if you've worked with them before and they know what they want. So seems like a smart appointment, and hopefully he'll fit in nicely with the team of analysts that we've already got, because they are already a really, really good team and have done a lot of good work.
I'm getting used to Sitka Hulshoff with his clipboard at this point in the background. I'm still getting used to that momentum that he's building there behind the manager, because we've got the calm exterior of Arne Slot, and then he's a bit more busy in the background. So as you said, David, the more familiar faces he can get around, the more voices that he trusts, can only be a good thing. We've seen this week, obviously, Jayden Danns, as you said to us previously on the channel, stepping up his fitness and working back with Barry Lucas in the under-21s. We've also seen Harvey Elliott in the gym, but I keep forgetting to ask you about Federico Chiesa. Have you anything on his recovery?
Yeah, so last I heard on this was basically, he was quite close to the Palace game, so it was kind of unfortunate he missed that one. So the expectation was that he was going to have kind of a full training in the international break and be available for the Chelsea game. So I've been given no reason to expect anything otherwise, unless he's had kind of a setback in the last few days that I've not heard about. I would expect him to be fit and available for the Chelsea game, which again is a boost. We all want to see a little bit more of him in this part of the season now.
Absolutely, and it'd be interesting to see where he gets utilised. For me, we'd seen him put into the centre when he was played. At the moment, I would say that's maybe they've one position that Arne Slot still hasn't nailed down as his guaranteed starter in. Diogo Jota has probably started more games this season than anybody else there, but I feel that central position still up for grabs. Would that be a fair analysis based off what you've seen?
Yeah, because I think, even when Jota's clearly ahead of Núñez, isn't he? And he's scoring goals and playing quite well. But I think even with him, you think there are elements in build-up where he could be doing better, just being a little bit tidier with the ball and keeping it better. His pressing is brilliant, and he obviously finishes his chances most of the time. But it's just that, keeping hold of the ball in build-up. And he's not a big guy, is he, to hold players off. So and Chiesa's more kind of midfielder-like in that sense of, better ability to retain possession. So it'd be interesting to see if he does get used there. And, I think Arne Slot would maybe welcome having another option there, because I think he doesn't quite trust Núñez, does he? And he wants to protect Jota. So if Chiesa can get himself minutes through the middle, then that gives him another option to go there. And that achieves all his kind of aims in terms of protecting Jota, but also giving him someone else in that centre forward role who might give him a little bit more of what he wants there.
Just to follow up actually on Jayden Danns, what do you think the plan is going to be with him come January? Are we looking at a loan there, or do you think Arne Slot may want to keep him around the first team, even if it is just for training purposes?
Yeah, so it was put to me when he first got that injury and he was out for a while that it wasn't a guarantee that he would get a loan. It's just a case of, okay, his main aim at that point was, let's get back fit, get back in training, get yourself in front of the manager, start to hopefully play some games to the 21s as well. And then we'll make a decision on what that means, whether the manager might want to keep him around or whether he's looking at a loan move in January. That decision is yet to be made. Basically, he's going to come back into training with the idea that he can put himself in contention, and we'll see between now and January whether he can do that. So no actual firm decision made on that yet. And be interested to see what the next couple of months hold for him.
So looking ahead to the January or summer transfer markets, probably more so summer with this one, Lafoot put out a piece suggesting that Rodrygo is considering his future at Real Madrid. Obviously, with the new additions they've got there, maybe he's looking around and feeling like his minutes might be limited. They've also linked Liverpool with a potential £85 million move from if Mohamed Salah doesn't renew. I wanted to get your thoughts on that, considering we have made a play for Rodrygo when he was still at Santos. Obviously, it didn't work out. He ended up going to Real Madrid. But do you know if Liverpool will continue to track Rodrygo's career?
Yeah, I've no doubt that they have, because this link comes up so consistently that it just makes you think that there's something there, and some sort of, Liverpool keeping an eye on him. And as you say, they have done in the past. And typically when that happens, Liverpool too tend to keep an eye on players. And I think with Rodrygo, it's an interesting one, because this was always going to happen, that if you add Mbappe to that attack, then he's going to start to struggle for minutes. And Liverpool being in the situation they are with Salah, where if they can't come to some sort of compromise on his contract and they can't get that agreement done, then they are going to be in the market for someone who can provide goals from that wing position, and they'll need someone like Rodrygo. So that makes a lot of sense to me, to be honest. Again, very, very early days in terms of whether that turns into anything concrete, but I would be amazed really if it's not something that they're keeping an eye on. Because that's the sort of deal that would make a lot of sense to them if it was to come to a situation where Salah wasn't to sign on.
Now, I know we could have got him for, I think it was about 4 million at the time when he was over at Santos, but even at the number mentioned in this article, if that was true, £85 million, I still feel there's value there. As crazy as that sounds in this mad football world of ours, if Mohamed Salah were to leave, and this would only be a worst case scenario, I feel like that is a realistic number at the very least, if indeed, of course, that is what Madrid were asking for. Do you think that's a number that Liverpool would be open to if Mohamed Salah were to move on? It is a big number.
It is, but I think if it's someone they're absolutely convinced by, someone who they think will come in and score goals, then they've no problem paying a big transfer fee. I mean, you think about, well, obviously didn't quite get it right with Nunes, you'd say at the moment, but that was a big transfer fee, or had the real potential to be, with all the add-ons triggered. Virgil van Dijk is a great example. Alisson again, so if it's someone who comes in and they think that they're going to solve a problem for them in a position that what is a problem position, and it would be if Mohamed Salah was to leave, then they're absolutely willing to pay those sorts of sums. It's just a case of whether they do need someone there. And I struggle to see a world where sort of Mohamed Salah stays and then they make that signing. But if you were to leave at the end of this season, then yeah, that feels like a realistic link to me.
I guess Caicedo as well was another example of the willingness there to spend a high transfer fee. Actually, speaking about Caicedo in the midfield, I read an interesting piece, and it might have been from yourself, actually, tell me if it was, to suggest that Liverpool kind of had to throw the rule book or the scouting out the window when Arne Slot came in, because basically it was a different profile of midfielder that Liverpool were having to look at. And obviously Martin Zubimendi was the one that we went in for in the summer. There's been a few bits and pieces, a couple of quotes from yourself to say that Liverpool are at least not ruling that out at this moment in time. But have we seen any indication from his side that maybe he's feeling like he's made the wrong decision? And also, do you know of any other players that Liverpool are tracking there in that midfield area?
Yes, so it was a really interesting piece. I agree. I did write it. So it's on davidlynchlfc.co.uk if people want to read it. It's free to read.
I thought it was you, but I didn't want to pat you on the back too much. I got to pretend that there's some level of criticism here.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting that they did kind of, that was one of the reasons they didn't have a backup to Zubimendi when he made that U-turn. It was because the previous scouting work they'd done on number sixes, even before this recruitment staff was put together, it had kind of been thrown out a little bit because the profile had changed so much. And rather than a Caicedo or a Lavia, who they viewed as more of a kind of a destroyer, they wanted kind of a tempo setter, a bit of a metronome in that midfield. And that is exactly what Zubimendi is now. That's still something that they want. They obviously weren't able to get it over the summer. There's still that issue whereby I don't think the manager massively trusts Endo. So it still feels like there's a vacancy in that midfield. They need the ability to protect Gravenberch and McAllister a little bit more, create a little bit more rotation in that position. So I feel there's potential there for Zubimendi to be revisited. The key aspect there is whether he is ready, whether he feels like he wants the move in January or whether he wants to wait till the summer. And we just don't know that at the moment. It's all massively reliant on the players' wishes. But then beyond that, whether Liverpool, because they've had a little bit more time now, have been able to find alternatives who fit that profile, who they think are good enough. And they have had time to do that. Whether they've been able to find someone who they believe moves the dial, or whether they prefer to maybe wait for Zubimendi till next summer if that's the only time he's willing to move. That's kind of what's up in the air at the moment. So very, very difficult to predict what will happen. But I would not by any means rule out a January addition in that position, be that Zubimendi or someone else. It just depends on whether Liverpool have been able to convince Zubimendi now's the time, and B, whether they found an alternative who they think is good enough to really change things for them.
Another name that we've been loosely linked to in recent times has been Jamie Gittins of Borussia Dortmund, who I believe started his career at Manchester City. Can you shed any light on this one, or is it just a case of Liverpool doing what most top clubs do and keep track of young, talented players?
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, the fact he would count as homegrown as well would be pretty handy. So I've no doubt that he's on their radar. I think he needs to have a couple more seasons of production behind him in terms of goal scoring to show that he is of that level. But he will be one of the names on the list for Liverpool. It's just a case of him kind of kicking on now and showing that he's not just potential. He can be of that level that Liverpool would need, because I think if they were to lose Salah, say in the summer, the player they're looking for is maybe not Jamie Gittins in terms of what his output is at the moment. They need someone who is at a higher level without a doubt. But if he can become that, and they'll definitely be keeping an eye on him to see how he develops.
Loic Balde is another name that's just come up in recent times. Sevilla centre-back. Have you heard anything on him?
I've never even heard of him, if I'm being honest. I mean, again,
that makes two of us, mate. Don't feel bad about that. That definitely does, mate. There's a lot of names recently where I'm kind of like just nodding along politely as people talk about them.
But again, centre half is a position that Liverpool know that they're probably going to have to strengthen at some point. Even as maybe as early as January, if Joe Gomez were to get a move and an offer came in that Liverpool didn't feel that they could reject. So links to that, if it's someone who's kind of young and they feel it would be happy to come in as kind of fourth choice initially, those kind of links are the ones that make sense to me. To be honest, I think anyone who's sort of higher profile than that, I would really struggle to see Liverpool signing its centre half.
So to finish up today, I wanted to just have a quick chat around the goalkeeper situation. We'd seen comments attributed to Georgi Mamardashvili to say, if the number one keeper is still there when I come in, I'm going to be there challenging for the number one spot. And look, that's what I want to hear. Any player coming to Liverpool Football Club, you don't want them to be overawed or daunted by who's ahead of them. You want them to feel like, I'm going to knuckle down, work hard in the training pitch and show the manager what I can do, and then take my chances. It got me thinking further though, David. The whole goalkeeper situation at the minute is a bit of a fluid one. So we've got Mamardashvili coming in. We've got Alisson, who seems like he's happy at the club. All the talk coming out of Alisson is that he is happy and settled here. But we also have Kevin Kelleher and Miroslav Jaros, who, if I'm right, his contract is up at the end of this campaign. So how do you see this one shaking up? I mean, are we going to keep 2 or 3 of the 4? Or it feels like somebody has to move on at this point.
Yeah, fluid is absolutely the word to describe it. I think I would be really surprised if Kevin Kelleher doesn't get his move this summer coming. Surely now is the time for him to move on and go and play football. So I think you can kind of discount him as an option going into next season. The main question from there will be, what they don't know exactly what Alisson's going to decide at that point. He did snub kind of Saudi interest this summer, but there's every chance if they come in and he feels it's time for a change and the money's incredible that he wants to make that move next summer. That's not something Liverpool can entirely control, which is why they got ahead of it by making the Mamardashvili signing. So there's a few options really. If Kevin is to leave, which is what I absolutely expect going into next summer, and then you've got a situation where Alisson says, okay, I'll do one more season. It's not too bad a situation to bring Mamardashvili back in for next season, to have him and Alisson as you two, because you think Mamardashvili will get the cups, get to know the place, get to know his teammates, really be able to settle in. He'll also probably get a few games when Alisson gets his hamstring injury every season. So there will be minutes for him there to kind of learn. And then the alternative is that Alisson goes and Mamardashvili comes in and he just, he's straight in there as the number one. That's how I kind of see that one playing out. And just on the Jaros, I don't actually believe his contract does expire at the end of the season. I know that is what's on transfer marks at the moment, but I think ahead of his last loan move, he signed a new deal. So it's something I need to check that actually just to absolutely nail down. But I'm not entirely sure that his contract does expire.
That's actually really good news then, because if the worst came to the worst and we did lose, say, Kelleher and Alisson down the line, Yaros looks like he's got the makings of a fine goalkeeper, and did very well when he came on for Alisson in the last game. Made a save, commanded his area, did well on loan at St. Pat's over here in Ireland, won the FAI Cup. So yeah, that's actually a positive update, David. Thank you for that one. And you're right, that's exactly where I did get the listing from, was Transfermarkt.
It gives you an option as well in terms of if you have a situation where Kelleher leaves to go play first team football, Alisson says he wants to go to Saudi, and they both do leave. You could easily sell to Yaros, okay, we'll have a season with us where you're the backup goalkeeper. Again, you're the one who gets the cup competitions. It'd be really good for your development. You can do what Quivine did in terms of, you could potentially win us the League Cup and the FA Cup and be involved in that. So it's not a bad situation to be in, basically, having too many goalkeepers who are really high quality. Liverpool are, kind of very fortunate in that regard. And that goalkeeping position is not something they're going to have to worry about anytime soon.
They really did deliver what they promised there in the goalkeeping department, which is just a centre of excellence for goalkeepers, and to build up probably the best goalkeeping department in world football, in my opinion. The club, the scouts, and Taffarel and everybody, Achterberg before him, all deserve their credit for that, because we've produced some fine goalkeepers in recent years, and certainly the addition of Mamardashvili for 30 million, I think we'll look back on this in years to come as a very, very good piece of business. So, David, as we always do when we're finishing up, just to ask you about what you've got coming up this week. Obviously, we touched on that article there, that very good article that you definitely did write about the midfield situation. Is there anything else coming up?
Yeah, so, well, if people want to go and read that, there's a deep dive sort of into Ryan Gravenberg's background on there as well that went up, and a little bit on the medical team, some other bits coming up as well in the build-up to Chelsea. So, yeah, please do check that out, and it's davidlynchlfc.co.uk. So
just quickly put you on the spot before we go. Give me a prediction for the Chelsea game.
I'm quite confident going into this. I think it's going to be a game where Liverpool sort of show to Chelsea that there's a difference in level, and they're sort of top four contenders, and Liverpool are trying to push for the title. So I'm going to go 3-1.
I like it. I think there's going to be goals in the game as well. I think if Chelsea persist on trying to play out from the back with our forwards and the pressing, I think we're going to catch them out on a couple of occasions. So, David, always a pleasure chatting with you. Really do appreciate your insight. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, you know what to do. Drop a like, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to go over and check out David Lynch LFC as well. And, of course, David on Substack. Thank you, David, for your time, and we'll catch up with you soon. Bye-bye.